I often joke that I'm a little bit more of an indoor kid, so I can't say that these products are in my wheelhouse in particular, but I will say that it's on your radar for a reason. So I want to give you as much time as possible to set up why this one's sticking out.
Yeah, so whenever we look at Polaris, it's a really fun name to track just because of all the products that you guys were kind of touching on. Just as an overview, the top three products, whenever we're looking at these purchase intent mentions, are the Slingshot, which I would describe as like this, looks like a really fancy go-kart, the Razor, which looks like a souped-up four-wheeler, and then the Ranger, which Kevin, you might like. This looks like the most incredible golf cart that could like tow things and also go off-road that you can imagine. So maybe that's the product that you should look into if you want to get involved with Polaris. But when we look at these, we really saw demand surge in Q2, and the company came out and confirmed this because more people were getting outside, more people were wanting these off-road vehicles. There's also strength in the motorcycle section and also the snowmobiles. And what we saw last quarter, we saw those mentions elevated up about 10% year over year. And so what we're looking at in 20 Q4, that's that box that's highlighted right there. It's, ignore the seasonality a bit. That's a little bit to be expected on a quarter over quarter basis, and key in on that 19% year over year growth in demand. And so why that's so important is because that's an acceleration from last quarter. Last quarter we saw about 10% year over year demand, which is exactly the revenue growth that the company reported. And now we're seeing that at about 19% year over year. And then what's even more promising whenever you look at the quarter that's shaded on the far right, that is actually accelerating. We're seeing that up about 22% year over year. So whenever we look at the current quarter that's about to be reported, we see demand that's really strong, and it's even nicer to see that continue into the current quarter. That's a nice sign for guidance moving forward.
Megan, this is an interesting conversation because we're having a city versus country talk here. And it seems like these are much more, and think about it. You've got people moving out of cities into suburbs, right? Probably more acreage in their life. And these with gasoline, everything that's going on with gasoline, these little vehicles are becoming more popular. And you're right. I looked at some of the pictures, Megan, and did you say the Ranger?
Yes, the Ranger.
Because the Ranger looks like the one that Kevin Hinks could get away with in his life and drive around. But I still got to find out where my golf clubs go, Megan. And what I want to know from you guys is, how far do they go? I mean, is this a thing that can be put on a golf course, or is this purely all-terrain vehicle? This is purely something for backwoods and hunters and things like that.
Maybe it's because I'm in Kentucky, but I have seen a couple of these around the neighborhood and close to the golf courses, especially more of the Ranger type deals. Sure. So I don't know if that's just a location-based bias, but I think that the wide variety of products that they sell, it's really interesting to see. These three different things are showing strength, right? A go-kart versus a four-wheeler versus a souped-up golf cart. For all of these vehicles or all of these off-road vehicles to be showing strength, I think shows that the company is producing products that consumers like. When we look at happiness, happiness is around 86% positive. Now, I mean, these are some of the most, fun things. These are like toys, right? So you would expect sentiment to be pretty high, but that is promising that as demand is building, happiness still remains relatively high. Another interesting tidbit, the holiday season is included in this quarter that they're about to report. And when we looked at mentions on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, just those 2 days, they were elevated about 41% year over year. So we think that this is, it's interesting that a lot of people, maybe got these vehicles for Christmas and now they're, getting them on the road. But I think that this is definitely one that is shaping up to be a really strong report for Polaris.
There's a lot to unpack here, Megan, and I think the key takeaway here is if you just look at this chart, what you're seeing, the story is kind of buried within the chart, because the chart itself kind of looks like the stock chart, which has been kind of a disappointing run over the past 5-10 years. But, and I think I know the answer, is the key takeaway here, and the reason that you're not worried that this is a head fake on the recovery, is because growth is accelerating.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're seeing continued year-over-year strength, and the fact that the current quarter, which we're only about a month in, is building upon even the strong quarter that the company is about to report. That gives us confidence moving forward. And I think that the fact that sentiment is as high as it is, that's another kind of gives us room for that Polaris is executing efficiently. One thing that we can't take into consideration, last quarter the company noted supply chain issues. So anything like that, that's not going to show up in our data. But at least from a consumer demand perspective and a consumer happiness perspective, Polaris is succeeding and exceeding consumer expectations.